What's going on, hikers? In today's video, we're going to answer that pesky question, where do I sleep at whenever I start backpacking? If you're anything like me, you had this exact same question whenever somebody said, hey, do you want to go backpacking with me? And you're like, I guess, but I got a lot of questions. And so I asked that same one. And as I was looking through on YouTube, I couldn't find any videos that answer it. So now, after getting quite a bit of backpacking under my belt and actually through hiking for a month, I thought, you know what, I think I'm qualified to answer this question. If you're new to the channel, my name is Jeremiah Stringer, and here we talk about all things hiking and backpacking. So if you're into that kind of thing, consider subscribing to the channel. Now, this video you probably got here because you are a new backpacker, or maybe you just enjoy the content on this channel. Either way, let's talk about it. You know, my father-in-law, he asked me, do you want to go on the Appalachian Trail for like 3 or 4 days and hike 40 or 50 miles? And I was like, well, I don't know, man. That sounds like an experience, but where are we going to sleep at? And I want to answer that question for you. So it's actually kind of complicated, and there's a number of different factors. Let's start with, in my situation, there were shelters. So depending on where you're going hiking or backpacking, if you're staying overnight, there may be shelters. You should probably check ahead of time and see if that's something that you have to reserve, or if it's just show up, first come, first serve. Now, if you don't want to sleep in the shelters, or there are no shelters, there's other ways or other places that you can sleep out there. So the most common place that you're going to sleep whenever you're in the backcountry going hiking and backpacking is a tent. If you've been camping before, that's probably how you slept. And if you are going to be tent camping, make sure that you have a few things that you need, the essentials. One, I slept on actually, hold on. My first trip, I didn't bring this, which is incredibly crazy now that I think about it. I didn't bring a pad to sleep on. I just thought I was going to rough it. But now I sleep on an inflatable pad. If you want to check out the one that I purchased, it's the Neo Air X Lite. I'll link it in the description, but there's a whole lot of other budget items that, if it's your first time backpacking or you're just, doing a few trips to see if you like it, I wouldn't spend a crazy amount of money. But you can, buy something on Amazon. Make sure you're doing your research though, and you're prepared for the conditions, because if it's cold, you're going to need, a higher R value. Okay. Secondly, you're going to want a sleeping bag or a sleeping quilt. I did bring one of those, a $10 one that I got, off of Buddy. He bought it at Walmart, and I was like, yeah, this will do. Sleeping bag's a sleeping bag, right? Oh man, I had a lot to learn. And then of course you also need the tent. Now there's other options. Some people start off, it's not very common, but they start off in a hammock. So if you want to start off hammock camping, a lot of people use Enos. That's a great budget-friendly option. And you can go with one of those, or if you're going to get serious about it, you probably need to get one that is a little bit nicer, and you can buy an underquilt for, and you can take a quilt with you and a tarp to go with it. Now, if that sounds complicated, let me simplify things for you. What you can do, and what I've tried out, my time hammock camping, is sleeping on that same pad that, you would sleep in a tent with. And it didn't work out so great for me because my hammock was too short. I was in a 10-foot, but we're working on that. I need at least 11-foot. So if you're going to hammock camp and you don't have, you don't want to spend that dough for an underquilt, which is the quilt that goes on the underside of your hammock, try sleeping on top of your pad and sleeping diagonally. And then of course you could still use that same sleeping bag that you were going to use anyway, or you could have, a top quilt that's going to be a little bit lighter while you're backpacking. Now there is another option. You can tarp camp. Now this is something that I haven't done yet. My buddy Backpacking with Jason, he just did a trip, and if he has that video published, or if he did one, I'll link it, but he did a trip where he tarp camped. And basically this is exactly what you'd think. Your shelter where you're sleeping at in the outdoors is a tarp. There's a bunch of different ways to set them up, and you can go on YouTube and search and find all kinds of different ways to position that shelter. Very, very minimalist, but it is pretty much the most ultralight way that I can think of, besides the one other way that I'm going to mention to you today. One other way that you can sleep in the backcountry is cowboy camp. Now, I would probably get quite a few trips under my belt before I did this, and basically it means that you're sleeping without a shelter. you're just sleeping. It's just you and the stars, baby. You out there gazing up at the stars. Now, keep in mind, you know, you could get wet from dew, and you know, there's bugs. And my wife's always like, I ain't gonna do that. And I'm like, why not? Why not? She's like, well, what if a snake crawls in my sleeping bag with me? So I would probably start with a tent if I were you, and hopefully that answers the question of where do I sleep whenever I start backpacking. If you have some other beginner questions, or you know, you found this entertaining, check out one of these videos here, and hopefully it'll answer some more of those questions for you. If you enjoyed the video, give me one of these, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you ring that bell so you can be notified when I release new videos. We'll see you in the next video.